Welcome to the Millionaire University Podcast. I'm your host, Brien Gearin, with you today. And on this edition of the MU Pod, we have an enterprising young gun. His name is Collin Rutherford, and he's the owner of Greenbox Storage. Collin is a former D1 athlete turned college entrepreneur who noticed an opportunity in the market during COVID and jumped for it, going from 0 to 5, then 6, and soon to be 7 figures in revenue in a short amount of time in the business of summer storage for college students. So Collin, man, thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Brien.
Yeah, I'm excited, man, because we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to jump in and we're going to see how much we can cover in about 1 hour's time here. So we're going to examine everything from your origin story, from your startup phase, the growth phase, the stage you're currently in, whatever stage that might be, and everything in between. So logistics, margins, revenues, team, processes, you name it, we're going to tackle it. But I want to start with your origin story. I learned that you were a former D1 hockey player at Dartmouth College. And before we hopped on, you and I connected for a minute because I have a lot of family from Hanover, New Hampshire, where Dartmouth is located. I have an older cousin of mine who played football there. So we had an instant connection there. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time at Dartmouth. My senior year was COVID, so that was kind of a whole other bag of worms. But yeah, really enjoyed my time. It's great in the summer, but a little tough weather in the winter. So I like spending my time there when it's a little nicer weather.
Yeah. Well, and you told me you're already a snowbird. You fly down to Florida for the winter because you're fully remote. So you got it made in the shade.
Yeah, that's the huge benefit of having a remote business. I run Greenbox Storage fully remote, so I can run it from pretty much anywhere in the world. It's a huge benefit.
Awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit about how you got into it. It sounds like COVID played a big part in this, in the birth of this business. How did Greenbox come to be?
Yeah, COVID was actually awesome for my business, which I think most businesses can't say, but I'll back up a little bit. So basically, my junior year of college, I was kind of looking for a way to make money on campus. And so I knew I wanted to start a business. And I thought back to my freshman year when I had a floor mate named Thomas. He was from Minnesota. Dartmouth is in New Hampshire, so really far away. He needed to store his things over the summer. He didn't even have a car, and the nearest open storage unit was 45 minutes away. So I was like, there has to be some better way to find summer storage. So I kind of just was able to gather an email list of all the students on campus and started doing some email marketing and whipped up the website and started bringing in orders for a pickup and delivery summer storage service for college students. So basically, I think we had like 15 customers like right at the beginning. And I was like, okay, we might be onto something here. And then we really started growing like wildfire once COVID hit.
Okay. So you kind of whipped this up. You got your first 15 customers. What did you do with all their stuff?
So I rented U-Hauls to move the items from campus into a storage unit nearby campus. So I rented a storage unit, rented a truck, hired a couple buddies to help me move boxes from dorm buildings to storage. And then when they came back in the fall, we go and we take their items back from storage onto campus at their new residence.
Okay. So that you kind of covered my next question of how does the process work? So it sounds like at the end of the school year, you collect and pick up however. So, and this is like your average college student probably has, well, you could tell me how many average boxes of stuff does a student need to store?
On average, it's 6. So, and it's not just boxes. We do mini fridges, plastic bins, suitcases, duffel bags, backpacks, whatever a student has, we'll store it. But on average, 6 items is what our customer stores typically.
Okay. And then it's on you you lease storage space, you store their stuff, and then come fall, school starts up again, you guys deliver it to their new dorm or their new residence?
Exactly. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So it's convenient for the college student and it's not super complicated, but there is a lot of moving parts, especially when you're across 23 college campuses in the United States right now, which we're at. There's a lot of moving parts going on at the same time. I think we had over 6,000 items in storage this year for over 1,000 customers. So it was quite the undertaking this year for Greenbox.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to get to your growth here in a minute, but staying at kind of at square one, how did it go for those first 15 customers? Was it super easy? You just had their stuff and in and out and you saw them next fall? Or you just gave me a giggle there, so it sounds like maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about some stories. You're at the early stages, you are down in the trenches, getting your hands dirty, moving boxes, you're sweating, you're climbing stairs. it's just like any business. You just got to be gritty at the beginning. And one of our core values is gritty, because I just like that as a characteristic of an employee of the company. But anyway, yeah, I was lucky. So I was able to get that email list of every single student on campus. So I kind of called that a cheat code, because imagine having the email of every single one of your potential customers. It was very convenient to have that. And then
Wow.
COVID hit after that, and all the students got sent home. So we were like, if you need storage, we got you. We'll pick you up with storage till whenever you come back to campus. So that we were very opportunistic there in that circumstance. And that kind of elevated Greenbox. It really accelerated our growth. So that was very convenient that COVID hit.
Okay, so just for timeline purposes, so Greenbox idea was hatched, or you guys even started collecting a couple bucks before COVID happened, right? So like 2019?
Yeah, 2019, we were founded like late 2019. So that was
Okay.
November, December. And then COVID-19 hit like a few months later. We didn't even have like a full summer storage season in us, because Dartmouth is a quarter schedule, not a semester. So there's students that take like winter term off or spring term off. That was when we first got started. And then that first summer season was COVID. It was crazy.
Wow. Okay. So, and you mentioned your little cheat code of, because so many of the things that we like to examine here start with, how do I get my first client? How do I find my first customer? You were amongst your peers who were your ICP, right? Your ideal customer profile.
Yep.
And you said you acquired a list of student emails. And did you just cold email, just pepper out emails looking for people who might need storage?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually public knowledge at Dartmouth. Every single email for every student is public knowledge. You could go on right now and see the email for all 4,000 and change students. So got lucky there. But if we also did some other things like guerrilla marketing, like handing out flyers in person, sliding flyers underneath dorms, chalking sidewalks, setting up tabling sessions and talking to people on campus. That was a little later on. We do a lot more of that now, but right at the beginning, we really relied on email. But you really just have to get down in the trenches and just sell. You just got to sell at the beginning. That's the number one goal for any business owner.
Yeah. Cash is king. Cash flow heals all wounds.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, especially when you're brand new. All right. So once you got that list of emails, you started getting in the trenches, COVID hit. What happened to your growth with COVID? I mean, sounds like it exploded a little bit.
Yeah, it accelerated. I think we ended up doing 56,000, or maybe that's the next second year. 41,000 that first year we did in revenue. And so that was when I was like, okay, like 41,000, I'm like a rising senior in college. I think I might be onto something here. So then I continued to grow it pretty much just at Dartmouth, but I had a friend at another school, Liberty University in Virginia. He launched a branch there because he saw how well I was doing with Greenbox at Dartmouth. And then I think year two, we're at 56,000. So that was
Wow.
2021, 56,000.
Okay. And it doesn't sound like you didn't need starting capital. This was an idea you just hatched to help a buddy, help out Thomas, make sure he had somewhere to store his stuff so he could go home to Minnesota without, 17 million bags on his hands. Doesn't sound like you need a whole lot of startup capital to do this.
No, my launch costs were $1,600.
$1,600.
And that's something I preach a lot because I post a lot on social media, especially on Twitter. I have a big following on Twitter. People always think that they need a lot of startup capital, or they need a lot of money, or they need to raise money to start a business. It could not be further from the truth, especially if you start a service business, because you really just need the materials and need to be able to sell. If you got those two, you can go and you can start a business. It's a little different with product businesses. Maybe you need like a prototype or inventory, and a lot of that needs more capital. But service business, hit the ground running. You can make profit from day one.
Yep, absolutely. That's the same with myself and my marketing agency. It was $1,500 all in to start it up. And at that point, it was just go find clients.
Nice.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
There
can
you go.
relate. All right. So you get this thing moving. You're coming up on 100K in revenue. You're onto something. You have two locations with he's your business partner, right? He was at Liberty University.
Yep.
So what did it look like internally? Like, were you guys like cool, calm, and collected out, bringing in new students for new business? But was it just the two of you that were running this? Did you hire out people to do the moving, or is it still you guys?
Yeah, I was pretty much driving every truck at that time when I was still at Dartmouth, and he was doing the operations at Liberty. I would hire some buddies. I was on the hockey team and I knew a bunch of athletes. So it was pretty easy to find some buddies to help. I'd pay them an hourly wage to help me move the boxes. But yeah, it was pretty much just me running the show at that point.
Wow. Okay. And then it's a matter of, do you guys so like the typical engagement with Greenbox, you guys provide the boxes, like they buy the boxes from you, they fill them up. It's however many they want. Then my next question is going to be pricing. How do you all charge for this? But logistically speaking, what did that look like?
We've played around with providing boxes and also not providing boxes. We started off not. For 1 year we did, and we realized that it was a big logistical complexity, or at least the way we did it was suboptimal. So then we went back last year to not even providing boxes and tape anymore. And it's not a huge deciding factor. I think we actually did some market research. It was fifth on a list of 5 things that customers value. So we were like, it's not a big consideration for our customers. Regarding pricing, which was like, I think either 1 or 2 on that list of high priorities for customers, we charge per item per month. So if you store a box, it'll be like $16 per box per month for the summer.
Huh. Okay. So it's whatever you can fit in this box. That box alone to be stored is $16, and then times the average box number of 6. So you're getting, again, I always tell myself don't do mental math on live shows.
Yeah.
Here we are. 6 times
we charge
16,
4 months for the summer
$100.
term for storage, by the way.
And with a 4-month minimum. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the pickup and drop off.
Pickup and drop off is free. There's a $25 storage reservation fee, which we're considering changing, but there's that $25. We have other fees as well. So if pickup on this one day is free, drop off on this one day is free. But if you want pickup on drop off or drop off on other days, there is a custom fee with that as well. So there's other fees layered in if you want like additional services, basically.
Right. Okay. When you were starting this, was there no other competition that do this, or is it still kind of a lightly dabbled pieces of competition here and there currently?
Yeah. So the reason I started at Dartmouth was I didn't know of a single competitor in the space at Dartmouth. I think in hindsight they did exist, but their marketing was so bad, no one knew of them. So I didn't know of them. I was at Dartmouth for 3 years. I'd never heard of this solution at Dartmouth. Now that I'm in the space, there are competitors, and there are maybe less than 10 national competitors like Greenbox Storage, but it's not a huge market. So there aren't like a million competitors. There are some mom and pops. They just do Boston University or whatever, but they're not nationals, but there are competitors in the space. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And then, I mean, you were doing all this while being a D1 athlete, which is impressive in and of itself. But I want to talk about how you kind of started hitting your growth phase. So now it looks like you're in a whole handful of other universities across the country, up and down the East Coast. I was looking on your website. You got a couple out here by me in Ohio, and then out all the way to Arizona. Let's talk about the growth phase. When did you realize that you needed to start doing this? And then how did you do that?
Okay, so my senior year, I think I was at 2 schools. Greenbox was at 2 schools. And then because of COVID, I got an extra year of eligibility to play hockey. And so I parlayed that into a master's in finance from Bentley University. So I played hockey there on an athletic scholarship, and also launched another branch of Greenbox at Bentley.
Wow.
And continue running it. So that was kind of like a 2 birds with 1 stone type of situation. So we went from 2 schools to 6. So my grad year at Bentley, we were at 6 schools. I think we added a couple other schools, University at Buffalo, which is where I'm from, and a couple other schools as well. So that was 2022. 2023, we were at 18 schools. So I'm graduated. I'm done with school. I'm doing Greenbox full time. And I was like, we're going into overdrive. We're expanding like crazy. We went from 6 to 18 schools. We tripled our branch presence. And
wow.
I have a few learning experiences from that. It wasn't exactly the best way to do it. I can get into that if you'd like.
Yeah, give me a story. It sounds like you got more than one.
Yeah, jogging my memory with all this stuff. So a lot of it was we were just taking any school we could. And that was not the right way to do it, because a third of the schools we expanded to when we tripled from 6 to 18 were not profitable. So we lost money at 33% of the schools that we were at that year. So we're like, shit, we can't just take any school because there might not be the right fit for this type of service. Like large state schools with a big commuter presence, they're not going to need storage because they're just going to drive home. They don't even live on campus.
Okay, so like so big state schools, maybe not ideal. Despite the fact they've got like 50,000 students, there's still not enough.
Right. Certain state schools, like we're at Ohio State, which is huge. We're at University of
Yeah.
Michigan, huge. University at Buffalo is pretty big too. But like a school like Towson University, which is I think it's in like the Baltimore area or somewhere over there. It's a huge commuter school, and there's just not enough demand for our service there.
Interesting. Okay. So commuter schools, no bueno. Is that a matter of when you found that out the hard way? It sounds like on a few of them, lost money. Yeah. When you're going into these schools, how do you, if you don't, did you have a connection at all these schools, or did you like find a student there? And first, I guess I should preface that, is everybody who works with Greenbox or runs a Greenbox extension, are they all college students?
Yes. So we actually don't need permission to operate to sell our services to students from the school. We can students can use whatever storage provider they'd like. We don't need permission to operate. So that means we can go and expand to any school whenever we want and offer those students our services, which is great. There's no barrier to entry.
Yeah.
In terms of expansion, our biggest barrier actually to expansion is hiring college students to do the labor and the marketing. So basically we hire college students as interns. They do marketing throughout the spring semester to bring in customers. And then they also do the operations of picking up items in the spring and dropping off items back to campus in the fall. And we pay them very well. They make from like $20 to $45 an hour because there's an hourly plus a commission for the number of items at their branch stores. So there's a lot of upside, and they make an hourly wage baseline as well.
And you said that is your biggest barrier to entry. So is that a problem of finding willing students to do some grunt work and get paid well for it?
Yeah. So we had, I think, 3,000 applicants last year, college students. And another issue with our 6 to 18, we were just taking like pretty much any college student that we got that we thought would be okay at the job. And then we had some problems with like unreliable interns and that kind of stuff, some employees bailing, that kind of stuff. So we're like, we're not taking just anyone. We're being hyper picky about who we're bringing on. So we had like 3,000 interns apply or students apply. Some of them not at good schools that we wanted to target. Some of them at good schools, but not the right kind of employee profile. And I think, hired 45. We only hired 45.
So tell me if I have this backwards. You basically put out the APB to get college students interested in this, but it wasn't at specific universities that you had chosen. It was at universities that wherever they happen to contact you from, then you look at that university along with that student?
Yeah, we have a lot of different marketing tactics when we're recruiting. I should say recruiting tactics. So we use Indeed, we use Handshake, a bunch of like social media. So anyone can apply, but we try to target people at our target schools, but still anyone can apply. So it really is a big open top of the funnel, but we just don't even interview people at schools that we don't want to expand to.
Wow. Okay. So you get 3,000 applications. How did you get through this? Maybe I should ask the question about who's on your team currently to kind of help you manage this, but how did you guys handle 3,000 applications?
Yeah, this is a good time to talk about the team.
Yeah, let's do that too.
I'm a huge advocate of offshore hiring. My entire HQ team is not in the United States. No one, I'm the only person. I have a partner actually. The person that launched that Liberty branch, his name's Aaron. He ended up investing in Greenbox. He bought 20% for $100,000 in 2022. Wow. So he's on the team and the HQ team, and then me, I own 80% currently. Other than that, it's actually kind of complicated to describe because it's a seasonal business. So we have like a lot of HQ employees in the busy season, and then we kind of cut a lot of the employees in the off season because there's not that much to do. So in the busy season, we had 13 on the HQ team. We had like 3 software developers, 3 customer support, 1 chief of staff, 1 campus supervisor to manage a lot of the interns, and a marketing manager and a bookkeeper. Wow. So whatever that comes out to, it kind of varies by timeline, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so you're remote. Your team is across multiple oceans. How do you guys manage all the interns that run your operation at like on a, like I think on your website you guys are down at Duke. Like you're not North Carolina, your team's not North Carolina. Obviously someone applied there and got and got hooked up. You just kind of go in with this blind faith that they're awesome people and they're going to run this. I mean, they're kind of, tell me if I'm wrong, but kind of like pseudo franchisees, if you will.
Yeah, you could say it like that. They're expanding they're launching their own location, you could say, at their college campus. So yeah, pseudo franchisees, but it's not really a franchise model exactly. It's a bit different. But yeah, we manage them remotely. So we have like we have a campus supervisor who is in charged with like making sure each branch does their marketing tasks each week, that they're on track with the moving operations. And yeah, we just manage them remotely.
And is that campus supervisor? Is that someone that's on campus? So it's kind of like,
No,
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 they're
it's fully
remote
remote.
too.
And we had
Okay.
one person for all of our branches last year, which it was a tough job for her. My chief of staff helped her out a lot. But yeah, she was actually from Mexico. She was actually born in St. Louis, but was doing the job from Mexico. Because she moved there.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. So remote hiring, I imagine this has saved you countless amounts of dollars
Yeah.
because that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to remote. And it sounds like you're getting fantastic output from the people that you bring on. You said since you're seasonal, you have to. It sounds like each year you let a few of your HQ go. Do you bring back those same people since they are remote and they probably have other assistant or virtual assistant gigs in the season when you're not high? Does that mean you bring those same people back, or are you always rehiring and retraining? What does that look like?
We haven't really gotten to that point in the maturity of the company, because we had last busy season 2023, it was me and two employees. So that was how we managed $518,000 revenue year. With It was just me and two HQ employees. This year we're going to be around 800,000. So we scaled up that team. We're also building a lot of custom tech. So that's another point of emphasis we're doing. But yeah, those two employees kind of just stayed with us. I kept them through the off season, but this time we really cut down in the summer. We're a lot leaner now. We have one customer support rep, my chief of staff, two software developers, and that's it actually right now.
Wow. All right. So you mentioned tech and software development. What type of tech are you guys developing? If you're able to share, or what type of
Oh yeah.
things do you guys do on the tech side to improve your offering?
Yeah, I'm super excited. By the way, I told you this before the call. I'm an open book. I'll share absolutely everything about my business.
Love
Pretty
it.
much, there's nothing. I have nothing to hide. So the software development, super exciting. We have a phone app for our employees. So while they're doing the operations, they can basically look at their phone and it'll tell them where they need to go, how many items they're picking up, the contact information for the customer, the pickup time, and they also inventory the items on the app as well. So they snap a picture of the item, they categorize it. Is it a box, plastic bin, whatever? And we inventory that way. So that's one pillar of the tech that we've built. Really cool, transforming how we run the operations of the company.
Is it almost like your own CRM, or I guess it's more so if you're like, I'm not in that world, but like your pick and pack software, like your tracking
Yeah,
software, right? Like this way we don't lose anyone's boxes.
exactly. Yeah, it's logistics stuff. It's not marketing. That part of it isn't any marketing. It's just doing the operations.
Yeah. Okay. So then that in turn streamlines the operation for your on-campus interns, makes their job a whole heck of a lot easier. Does it also do so? Like, if I'm at my alma mater at Dayton and I'm an intern for you, does that mean that I'm going out on marketing, I'm bringing in the business, but now let's say I've got 40 accounts, and each time that I go and collect an item, the name of the person, their contact information, their account is already present in this app. And
Yep.
all I got to do is populate it. And that way, when we come back in the fall, I just go to their account. So they've got 7 boxes. They're sitting in storage D.
Yep.
Today we're doing pickup. And then you just mark everything as if you're in a CRM, tracking a sales call or a sales pipeline.
Exactly. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. That's pretty much exactly how it works.
Wow. Okay. And that's your own proprietary software that you guys have built.
We've built it from scratch. Yeah. I've got my software developers. They're from Pakistan. Phenomenal employees. Really, really, they're just killer. Really happy to have them on the team.
Awesome. Okay. Is there any other software initiatives you guys are working on, or is that you built it and it's just maintenance mode?
Yeah, so that's one piece. Another piece we have is, well, a basic piece. So here's the second pillar. A basic piece is customer accounts. So we build out a custom website for customers to sign up. Basically, they fill out the information that we need to conduct the operations, which then populates into that phone app. So that's pretty simple. That would took a lot of work actually, but it's pretty simple. Third piece is we pretty much manage the whole company from a back end dashboard. So we can see how many orders we have. We can change customer data on the back end if they need to, like say they thought they were moving into dorm B, but they're actually moving into dorm F. We can change that information on the back end. Then it changes in the web app, of course. We can create pickup schedules on the back end. So yeah, there's this whole dashboard that we've built to manage the business.
Wow, that's impressive. All right, so seasonal business, 4-month minimum. So do you guys make all your money in 4 months?
Yeah. 90, I would say 90 to 95%. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so and these 4 months are May, June, July, August, September?
Yeah. It's typically the second half of May through mid September because Dartmouth starts late, ends late, and it's one of our better schools because we've been there longer. So yeah, mid May to mid May through mid September, I would say 4.5 month period.
Okay, so while you're in Florida doing your snowbird thing, what are you working on? Like, what type of thing? I mean, you're an entrepreneur. I know your wheels have to be spinning while you're on the beach down in January. What other things
Yeah.
are you possibly thinking about to turn revenue all year? Or who cares? You're making a ton of money in 4 months. Just live it up. What's it look like for you?
It really is not an easy business to run. It's actually a very difficult business to run, especially when you're at 23 schools and we're targeting growth to 30 plus next year. So in the off season, which like we're in the busy season right now, like we're doing drop off, students are getting back to campus. It's August 12th, school starting back up. But mid September rolls around, everything's done. The year's pretty much over. It's pretty slow. So we take a little bit of a break, but then we're getting ready for the next year. Like there's a lot to do. We have to recruit interns. We have to build more tech. We have to refine our operations. It's slow because we don't have orders coming in, but there's a lot to do to get ready. So that's the seasonality of the business. Myself, I've fired myself from as many positions as I could so far at Greenbox Storage. So I don't answer customer emails anymore. I don't take phone calls from customers. I don't do a lot of the marketing anymore. So I've really been able to take myself out of the business as much as possible. So it's not a founder driven company anymore. It is. I definitely help out a lot in the busy season and kind of rebuild and build further in the off season. But that's how a company becomes valuable, in my opinion, when it's not founder driven anymore.
Yep. The quicker the founder can pull themselves out of the daily operation, the more valuable the business becomes, and the easier. Well, I shouldn't say easier, but the the quicker it can scale.
Yeah.
Because you've learned to delegate, and that like delegation is possibly the hardest thing that an entrepreneur has to do.
Yeah.
I know that from experience just as well as you, and it's amazing that what you're 25, 26.
26.
Okay, so you're 26 and you're already delegating yourself out of your business, which is amazing. Like it takes some entrepreneurs many, many years to figure that part out. And obviously it's starting to pay dividends. So speaking of dividends, I want to talk, revenues and margins for this type of business. What does that look like for you?
So this year we're on track for 800-ish thousand. It's August. We don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but probably around 800,000. Year before 2023, 518,000 was our revenue. Year before that, 270,000. And year before that, 130. Year before that, 4156. I don't know if I'm mixing up those early year numbers, but yeah, the last 3 years, 270, 518, 800,000. And so we've had a pretty good growth trajectory.
Yeah, I would say that's awfully steady growth, and to be coming up on high six, approaching seven figures for a young company is impressive. How do you, I guess, what do your margins look like in terms of? I mean, you run a pretty lean operation, from my understanding. So let's start there. What do the margins look like for you?
Our gross margins are ridiculous. Our gross margins I'll give you 2023 numbers because those are finalized. Our gross margins last year were 80%. It was, I think, actually exactly 81%. So yeah, they're insane gross margins. Our net margins last year were 20%.
Wow.
So there's a lot of payroll costs. It's basically a lot of payroll. Like we had so many interns in this year and last year, so it's a lot of payroll. And then storage expenses and like U-Haul expenses. That's kind of what makes up the other costs.
Yeah, I mean those are still great numbers. That's very impressive. Do you guys like? Are you boiled down to like knowing like your average cost to acquire a customer and then kind of making decisions based on data?
Yeah, I don't have that number off the top of my head, unfortunately. I think our CAC, customer acquisition cost to LTV, was 30 last year.
Nice.
So we had an
Okay.
unbelievable metric. We were acquiring
Yeah.
customers. Each customer on average was worth $611 for us in 2023. So I guess I could do some mental math backwards induction here. I don't want to embarrass myself on
Come
air,
on,
but
Ivy League guy, let's go.
yeah. Yeah. So we were acquiring customers for pretty cheap and making the most of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned some of your expenses, payroll being the biggest one. That's very common across a lot of growing businesses. How do you keep your expenses outside of payroll in check? So you mentioned your warehouse or your storage expenses, your U-Haul expenses, any of the miscellanea. How do you guys keep that under control when you are on so many different campuses already?
Good question. I think part of what goes into it is, and this is a strategy we just started implementing in 2024. If we don't have 10 customers at a school, we're shutting down the branch. We're not operating. We're refunding the $25 storage reservation fee and we're just cutting our losses. It's not worth it for us to operate at less than 10-ish customers. So we need a certain threshold. And I think that saves us a little bit of expense on that side of things.
Okay. So, and then like if I'm an intern for you, do I get is it even up to me to figure out like getting the best costs on a U-Haul or where to find the storage unit, price comparison? How granular does that get?
Good question. We take care of all of that at HQ. The student is
Okay.
not required to book U-Hauls, find storage facilities. So that's another cost control, I guess you could put it that way. We control everything at HQ.
Wow. Okay. So literally the intern, their job is to get the business and then do the business, get the pickups and
Exactly.
drop-offs.
Yeah, we make the pickup schedules too. That's actually a big thing. I don't think a lot of people think about it. Like we have to create the most efficient route through campus. You don't want to go from here over to here, over to here. We snake through campus as efficiently as possible. And that's not an easy thing to do actually. So that's
Well,
something we also take control with at HQ.
okay, that was going to be my next question because for a time in a former life, I worked in lawn care and we had software where we would design routes to be the most efficient possible for the techs on that given day.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like obviously for you, that can be very important for making sure you keep everybody efficient, making sure you're not, having to pay your intern an extra 3 hours because everybody screwed up the route making.
Yeah.
Do you guys use software to do that, or is that still manual with the folks that work with you at HQ?
Yeah, it's pretty manual right now. And there's so many things we still have to do software development wise. Like that is important, but it's kind of taken a backseat compared to some other things we want to build out. But we use Google Maps a lot. It's easy to kind of use just Google Maps. You can do up to 10 addresses on Google Maps. And so that's a technology we use to help us build out routes.
Okay, so your teammate at HQ, they'll get the final customer list from XYZ College. They'll say, all right, we've got 5 here, 10 there, 2 here, 7 there, 6 there, and then they just go out and create the route.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so back to the interns that you guys trust on every campus. When it comes to them having to go develop the business, what does that look like for them? I know what it looks like for you. You kind of hit the ground running. You talk to your friends, and then you grew organically. Do you have SOPs, standard operating procedures, that you pass to these interns? Do these interns have to have at least a minimum personality trait to go out and biz dev? Like, I don't know. I think back when I was in college, I had none of those skills. Like, I was entrepreneurial. I had my own lawn care business, but I didn't exactly like go crazy marketing myself. It was my neighbors on my block came to me and I cut their grass. In college, I would have been totally at a loss for this. So what does that look like for your interns?
Yeah, we have a training process at the beginning with SOPs. We share how to do certain things, both logistically and marketing. So our marketing strategies are this. We do cold email, so we're still able to gather email addresses. So that's one thing. But the students don't do that. We did that at HQ. Students, we send flyers to students. They flyer dorms on campus. That is one of the highest performing marketing tactics that we do. You slip a flyer under every single dorm on your campus 2 to 3 times throughout the semester. We get a lot of orders that way. I also mentioned, I think, chalking sidewalks. So we send chalk, right? Need summer storage, ? Greenboxstorage.org. All over campus. It'll get a lot of visibility. Just straight up hands and knees. We're getting gritty on campus doing marketing. Another one we do once a week is tabling sessions. So we send a nice, great looking tablecloth. A stretch tablecloth looks really good. And we talk to students on campus, say, hey, like, what are you doing for summer storage this year? Do you need summer storage? And we actually have a credit to my partner, Aaron. He came up with this strategy. We actually set up 2 red Solo cups on the table. And we say, if you make a shot, like a pong shot in one of these cups, we put water in the cups, you win a $5 Starbucks gift card. And we actually, so before they play, we say, okay, we're sending your gift card to your email. If you win, what's your email? So we actually build out an email list that way as well, in person on campus during our tabling session. So we've got a lot of strategies built up over the years for how to get students to order on campus.
Okay. Has there ever been any need for digital advertising or like running Facebook ads?
Actually, something we started experimenting with this year, and it was unbelievable, actually.
Yeah.
We were getting orders for, I think it was like, it started off at like $8 per conversion, and then it ended up at like 12 to 14. It was absolutely insane. Meta just converted like crazy. So we're actually spending a lot more time and resource on that in 2025 next year because it performed unbelievably last year.
Wow. So like basically taking a lead gen ad and running it to like the university zip code and just letting it go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it works like a charm.
That's an awesome application for, as someone who comes from the advertising world, that is an awesome application for Facebook ads. So I had to ask because I figured there was probably some angle you're working there. That's awesome.
We didn't do enough though, frankly. Like I don't know that much about Meta, and I hate Meta Business Suite. It's the worst software of all time. It's so confusing.
Yeah, you got to use Business Manager.
Yeah, it's the freaking worst. So I hired a marketing manager to kind of take care of a lot of that, and we just absolutely killed it on Meta last year.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so you got a little bit of digital mix in there, a lot of guerrilla tactics, a lot of just pound the pavement and grind it out, which seems obviously to work really well. How do you guys track these types of results, or do you have methods to track? Since some of these are very conventional methods, I know there's different ways to do that with different phone numbers or QR codes, all the way down to just, hey, how'd you hear about us? Do you guys have tracking methods?
Yeah, the best tracking method we have is how'd you hear about Greenbox Storage? Mm-hmm. Because we have so many pretty much untrackable methods like chalking sidewalks. How are we really going to know who ordered from a chalked sidewalk? And I think really you have to take that data with a grain of salt as well, because each customer on average you need 6 touches per lead to convert that lead into a customer. So they see my flyer, then they saw this chalking, then they talk to me in person. Like, what do you attribute that customer to? It's not really a cut and dry process. So I think you have to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on pricing a little bit, but this question just occurred to me. You said you're $16 per box, average of 6 boxes per student. How did you land on 16? Or I imagine that maybe you've raised that price a little bit since you started. How did you come to those numbers? And then did you just test it out in the market, see if people will pay it, or could you charge a lot more? What's that look like for you guys?
So I started at Dartmouth at $11 per box. And we've just been raising prices since because people have just continued buying. So we're just going to keep raising our prices, and people have kept buying. There hasn't been a specific research that's gone into our pricing structure. And that's something we're also working on this year. We're working with a management consultant named Jonah. he's helping out with our pricing strategy a lot for next year. And I'm thinking 2025 is going to be a big year for us. So yeah, we kind of just like, it sounds bad to say, but I think a lot of people do. We kind of just made up our pricing. We just make it up.
Yeah. And you put it out in the market and see what the market says about it. And then
Yeah.
until the market says, no, too much, you keep raising it, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
especially for a business like yours, with the amount of volume you do at a relatively, affordable rate, if you change it by $3 per month per student, that could have an incredible impact on your bottom line.
Yeah.
And it's not a huge rate to the individual or a rate increase to the individual.
Right. And we also have 3 pricing tiers. So a school like that's super wealthy, an Ivy League school, it's going to be higher priced there than it is at a state school like Ohio State. So we have 3 different pricing tiers as well.
What does the expansion of Greenbox look like as we get not 1, but 2, maybe 3 to 5 years down the line? Is this something where you're going to continue doing the interns at different college campuses across the country, or does this become something where you have physical branches all over the place? Does it get franchised? What do you see on the horizon for Greenbox?
Yeah, I've been kicking around a lot of different options. You could go the franchise route. I don't really know much about franchising. It's always a route you can go down. We could always partner with a national moving company and kind of remove the student aspect from the business. So the moving company does the labor and we do just digital marketing. That's another opportunity. Or we stay with what's working. We stay with student model. It's not the easiest thing to manage all the college students, but could just stay with what's working. 3 to 5 years down the road, I'm going to try to continue to remove myself from the business as much as possible. I'm eventually going to hire a CEO to take my role and have a management structure with some managers under him as well, him or her, and continue to build the business value.
I love it. And then you got my brain jogging on the point you mentioned about using the college interns versus a national moving company. I guess I didn't think about this before. Your interns will graduate. They won't be interns anymore. They're going to go out into the real world and do whatever they do. Does that mean at every campus you're at, you're constantly having to recruit every single year, at least every 1 or 2 years on average? I guess I'm assuming you're mostly hiring juniors and seniors.
Yeah, our turnover is extremely high for interns because that's the nature of college. So we're starting from pretty much scratch recruiting every year, and that's why there's always a lot to do in the off season because we always got to recruit.
Yeah. Okay. And that hopefully these interns do a good job. And if they're graduating, maybe they've got a friend who's a senior or junior behind them who they can plug and play.
Definitely. Yeah. And we actually see a lot of success within teams. Like at Dartmouth College, I was on the hockey team. It's still run by the hockey team at Dartmouth. And we have a lot of teams like that at our other schools as well.
And these interns, it's not just a one man or one woman operation. Well, they'll have other, 2 or 3 or 4 essentially teammates to do the actual delivery and drop off, right?
Yeah, we have 2 interns per branch, and then they do the marketing throughout the year, and then they can recruit some friends to help out move boxes at the end if they need to.
Wow. Okay. So one of my last few questions here, are your students, your interns held to a certain, I know you said you really can't do business at less than 10 or 15 customers, but I imagine most of these schools are performing really well. Do you have to cut some is that number 10, is that the hard line to cut? Or, because in my mind, like 10 almost seems kind of easy.
Yeah. It depends on the quality of the employee and also the quality of the market, which is the school that we're in. So,
okay.
Yeah, we've had to fire some employees because they just weren't doing the job or they weren't getting the results that we needed to keep the branch open. So we've had to do that a little bit in the past year.
Man, well, this is a heck of a business. It almost seems so simple. I don't want to glaze over the fact that it has been a ton of hard work for you over the past few years. And you said you're a snowbird and you go down to Florida, but that's when you guys are like going to the lab. You're figuring out how you're going to improve the company, how you're going to change it, how you're going to grow. So that's almost, that seems like a blessing in disguise that you get a handful of months where there isn't orders coming in because you get to focus fully on growth.
Yeah, there are pros and cons to having a seasonal business for sure. The lack of revenue year round is a con, but the pro is that we can really analyze and figure out where we can improve in that off season.
There it is. All right. Well, I want to respect your time here. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to know if you have one piece of advice for our listeners, our early stage or soon to be aspiring entrepreneurs. What would be one piece of entrepreneurial advice that you would impart?
You just got to start. 99% of the world has ideas. Everyone has ideas for what business they can start. 1% of the people actually go out and start a business. I've done it. I've went out, started. Actually, Greenbox is my fourth business. I had 3 businesses before this one that failed. So if you fail once, that's not going to define you for the rest of your life. You have to start. There's no time like the present, especially if you're in college. I think it's the best time to start a business. The second best time is now. Where however old you are, now. You got to do it now. Stop thinking about it and start doing, start selling.
I love it. I love it. And I can tell you, as I'm almost 34 now, I wish I got into entrepreneurship at like 7th grade age and I didn't realize it. And then I go to college. I thought I had to go get a real job and do the rigmarole. I wish I was like you and just started a business back then because, yeah, I mean, like looking at you, you are miles ahead of the game. And I love that piece of advice. We have a lot of our entrepreneurs and listeners are younger, or they're looking at college, or they're in college, or maybe they just graduated college, and there's so much opportunity out there. The money and the abundance is there. And if you have an idea, like you said, just go act on it. Go do something. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. Also, if there are college students listening to this right now, the internship with Greenbox Storage, that's a great way to kind of dip your toe into entrepreneurship. Like you mentioned, it's kind of like you're launching like your own branch. So we give you the tools, but you have to go out and do it. So if you're interested in entrepreneurship, a Greenbox Storage internship is a good position to start.
Absolutely. You heard it here first, folks. Rock on. All right, man. How can our listeners get a hold of you? How can they check you out? I know you're big on Twitter/X. Give us the rundown.
Yeah, as of right now, I have 8,000 plus followers on Twitter. It's my platform of choice, or I post a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm just getting into the video platforms as well. So I'm posting every day on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels as well. So you can find me pretty much anywhere, and I provide content every single day about how to start and launch your business. That's what I do.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Collin, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, had a blast. Thanks for having me on, Brien.
All right. We'll see you next time.